Hey guys, welcome back to another tutorial. Today I'm going to be doing a wedding guest dress. So the ideal wedding guest dress pattern, and the dress is going to look like this. And I'm super excited. I've already worn this dress to one wedding so far. I have another wedding coming up in September, so I'm really excited to create another version of this dress. And I'm going to walk you through how to make this dress today using my new pattern, which you can download below. So make sure to do that now and we can get started together. So first I want to talk about fabric. So today I'm going to be using this beautiful fabric. I want to also advise you that you can really use any fabric, but I like to use one that has a little bit of a stretch, just because it's going to make the dress a little bit more comfortable. That is my preference, but you totally don't need to, because there's the option to add a zipper in the back of the dress. So totally up to you, but that is just my recommendation. And I would also recommend to get about 4 meters of fabric just to be safe, so that we can have some extra for the lining for the top as well. So let's move on to the next part. Okay, so now I want to talk to you about printing your pattern. So printing your pattern is very easy. There's multiple ways that you can do this. When you download the pattern below, you'll notice that there are a few different file types. So there's going to be the single sheet pattern, there's going to be A0, A4, and letter format. So you can choose whatever format works best for you. I find the most ideal way to print it is going to be the single sheet format at your local print store, just so that you can print it all in one sheet. You basically just go up to your printer. So I go to Bureau and Gros or Staples if you're in Ontario. If you're in the States, you could probably go to a UPS store, something like that. So you basically just ask them to print it on their wide format printer on engineering paper at 100% scale. So emphasize the 100% scale. We have our little testers on the pattern so that you can measure your 1-inch and 2-inch squares to make sure that the pattern has in fact printed correctly. So that is a really great way to tell. But again, you can also print it at home. Letter format if you are in the States or Canada, and also if you're overseas, A4 or A0 are great options as well. So this is just my preference. It's a little bit more expensive, obviously, to print it in store. And another thing to note, if you are printing at your at-home printer, there will be a little bit of a border when you're lining up your pieces, and that is completely normal. I get that question a lot. That's just kind of one of the downfalls of printing at your at-home printer. So totally recommend to do the print shop. You won't have to worry about that if you do it that way. But again, you can definitely do it any way that suits you best. So that's the pattern. Yeah. And I think we can pretty much get started. I'll just quickly talk about materials and we'll be good to go. Okay, so next I want to talk about materials. So first we have just our dress material. I have about 4 meters here, which is going to be perfectly fine. Then we have our zipper, which is optional. If your fabric doesn't have a little bit of stretch, you'll definitely need a zipper. If it has a lot of stretch, you don't necessarily need one, but you can. I'm going to use one today. We have our pins, of course. We have our clips, if we prefer. We have our Gutermann thread, which is 100% polyester, which is going to add some strength. I have some backup needles. These are stretch needles, but you can use regular needles as well. I'm going to be using a serger today just to finish off the inside edges really cleanly, but you can just use a basic zigzag stitch on your machine. If you don't have a serger, that's totally okay. Of course, just standard fabric scissors. And technically you shouldn't use your fabric scissors to cut your paper, but that is my sewing red flag a little bit. I kind of use them for both, which I shouldn't, but yeah. We have our little seam ripper, our clippies for cutting thread quickly, and then of course just some bobbins. And also another option is to have some boning. So if you want to have some boning in your dress on the sides, I'm going to do that just so that it fits nice and snug. I recommend to order some boning as well. You can order that on Amazon. I'll show you a photo right here. And that's going to be really for best results. So I think we can get started now, and I'm going to get started with cutting out my pattern. Okay, so the first step when you're going to be cutting out your pattern is you're going to decide which size you want to make. So on the pattern, you'll notice a little sizing chart. So for me, I'm going to be doing a small, so I'm going to take a look at the associated line, and it's going to be the small dotted line. And so I'm going to go over to my pattern pieces and see which line corresponds. So I'm going to see my little dotted line, and the dotted line is going to appear on all of the pieces. So I'm going to be following that line for all of my pieces that I'm cutting out. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start cutting out my pieces. So what I do to start is I'll just do like a rough cut of each piece, and then I will go in and cut it properly. Okay, so I've started cutting out my pieces for my fabric. So what I'm doing is I'm basically taking my pattern pieces and I'm looking at the little legend here to tell me how many pieces I need of each pattern. So for this one, I can tell I need 4. So I'm using the same fabric for the lining and the outer dress. So I'm basically just taking that as another piece of the fabric whenever it says lining, but it says, so I need 2 mirrored. So mirrored basically just means one the other way. So if it says 2 mirrored, it means one this way and one that way. So basically it says two mirrored for both the lining and for the main fabric. So basically I'm gonna need 4 pieces of these. So 2 this way and then 2 that way. So another thing to pay attention to is these little arrows. So this is gonna tell you the grain direction for the pattern piece. So always put it parallel to the grain line. And you can tell the grain line by matching it up with the edge of the fabric. So that's what I'm going to do. So I've done one piece already this way. So now if I want a second one mirrored, I'm going to flip it and have it go like so. So now I'm going to pin this down and cut out the mirrored version of it. Okay, so as I'm cutting out my pieces, I just want to give a little tip that as you're going, a good way to stay organized is to take your little paper pattern piece and then you collect all the pieces. So for this one, I need 4 mirrored, of course. So we have our front and our lining in here. So I'll put them together like this. And what we're gonna do is I'll pin it to my paper pattern, and that keeps things nice and organized. So now all of my pieces of this pattern piece are together. Put it to the side. And I'll do the same with this one. So just gather it. Okay. So now we can put our completed packages to the side and then finish cutting out the rest. I've done that for both of them. We can see we have our two pieces here that are clipped together. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to sew these edges from the top, flat edge, all the way down to the point, back up, and then stopping at that flat edge, leaving this side open because we're gonna wanna go in and turn it inside out. So make sure you leave that top edge open. So go all the way down to the point, and then back up on your sewing machine. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now, and then I will show you how to flip it inside out. Okay, so now that I've sewn these two down, I'm just gonna go ahead and just cut off a little bit of excess fabric on the sides, and make sure not to get too close to your actual stitch line. But if you have some bulk on the sides, you can trim it a bit. That's what I'm gonna do now. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna flip these inside out. And normally what I would do is I would use a loop turner here, which I usually recommend, but I don't have it with me. So I'm going to use this big safety pin, and hopefully this will work. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to put it through the hole at the bottom. We're gonna slide it all the way to the bottom. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to actually open the safety pin, and I'm going to pin it at the top. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm gonna feed it through. So I'm gonna feed it back through. So far that's working, which is awesome. So this is a really great trick if you don't have a loop turner on hand. You can just use a safety pin. Okay. Beautiful. Now we can unpin that and pull it all through. Looks great. Now what I'm going to do is iron this down, and then I will do the same thing with the other strap. Okay, so basically what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take our two top pieces. So one is gonna be your lining and one is gonna be your front. So I'm gonna put them together, right sides facing, like so. And we're gonna line them up exactly. Okay, then we're going to either clip or pin them in place. Okay. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna sew along all the edges and close up the top piece. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to trim off just some excess bulk. Make sure not to get too close to the seam, but I'm gonna do that. Then we can flip it inside out and iron it flat. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're actually going to flip this inside out. So I'm gonna use my safety pin trick again. So I'm going to drop it in one of these channels here. Here we go, and then going to pin it at the top like we did before. Okay. Now we can fish it through the other side. So now what I'm going to do is the same thing on the other channel. Drop my pin. Looks good. Now I'm going to hit up my iron just to flatten things out. Okay, so now what we're gonna wanna do is attach our straps. Again, there are many ways to do this. You could have done it before when you were sewing the two pieces together, but I like to do it after so that I can really tell exactly where it's going to go. I can line them up. So if you want, you can have it faced, the pointy side faced down, which I think is nicer, but it's up to you. So what I'm gonna do is right below the bust seam of the top, I'm going to just seam rip just a little opening right here where I'm going to insert my strap. Okay, so now I'm going to clip it in place on the inside. And we're going to do the same thing with the other side. Now what we're going to do is we're going to flip inside out partially. You don't need to do the straps. And we will secure the straps. So we're basically going to pass by this seam again over the part where we clipped, but we're going to start a little bit in front of where we ripped and much past where we ripped. So we're going to want to secure that and pass by to make sure this original seam is secured as well. So I'm going to place this in the sewing machine and sew both sides down. It looks pretty good. Now I'm going to do the other side. Okay, so now what we're going to want to do is create some channels for our boning on the side here. And I'm basically going to want to create a little channel right on the side just to create some structure to the dress. So you basically only need about a centimeter. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to top stitch right on top of this seam here, and then just about a centimeter away, I'm going to do another straight stitch down, and that's going to create a little channel. So I'm going to do that now, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so that is one top stitch, and I'm going to do another one, just enough to slide in our boning there. So right now I'm lining up my presser foot right along that first seam, and that should be enough. I also have my needle position to the middle. So as you can see here, I've created my channel, and we can go ahead and slide in our boning. Perfect. Now what I'm going to do is cut off the excess at the bottom. Great, now we can do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to top stitch, then create a second stitch to make a channel, and then insert my boning. Okay, now we successfully have our boning in on both sides. So we have some of that structure already, which is great. And we can just trim our loose threads. Okay, so next what we're gonna do is start on the skirt. So we're going to start with our two back pieces that we have that are mirrored, and we're gonna put them right sides facing. So these are going to be the two smallest pieces of your skirt. So line them up perfectly. And then clip in place. Okay, so now that this is all clipped down, I'm going to sew this straight edge down, and I'm actually going to use my serger, but feel free to use regular sewing machine if that's what you have. You can use a zigzag stitch if you like, if you want to have that a little bit nicer finish. Or you can just use a straight stitch if you don't mind having your seams a little bit raw on the inside, but I do recommend the serger, but again, you can always do zigzag and that works perfectly fine. So I'm going to take this over to my serger. Okay, so now that I have serged that all together, I'm going to place this whole piece against my larger skirt piece here, and we're gonna do right sides facing. Okay, so what we're doing now is we're placing our two skirt pieces together. So we have our large skirt piece, and we have the one that we just sewed together, the two pieces, and we're gonna place them together, right sides facing. I've gone ahead and clipped one side down already, as you can see. So you basically just put them right sides facing and then go ahead and clip one side together. And then we are going to hit up our serger machine or our regular sewing machine on zigzag stitch, and we're going to be attaching this side together. So I'm gonna go ahead and move over to my serger and really sew these two fabrics together. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'll let you know how to do the other side. We're gonna do the other side a little bit differently, so stay tuned. Okay, so now that we have sewn down that extra side there, it's looking good. For the last side, I want to add a zipper. So what I'm going to do is approach it a little differently, and if you want to add a zipper in the back instead, you totally can, but I think I'm gonna add my zipper on the side for this project. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to serge the two remaining sides on their own first. So just to create a really clean edge here, I'm gonna serge this raw edge and then this raw edge. So basically your two remaining raw edges all the way down, we're gonna serge those before we put them together, and then I'll show you why we're doing that in just a sec. All right, that's one raw edge down. Now I'm going to do the remaining raw edge. All right, beautiful. Now we have both raw edges sewn down. And now what we're gonna do is we're going to place them together, edge to edge, right sides facing. And we're gonna go ahead and clip these two together. So we're gonna clip all the way down. Okay, so now that we have our two sides clipped together of our freshly serged edges, we are going to actually sew these together now so that we have our skirt piece all closed up. So we'll sew them together about 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and we can go ahead and move back to our regular sewing machine and just do a straight stitch. Okay, looks good. Should look like this. And what I'm gonna do next is actually just press open that seam, and then we can move on to insert our zipper. Okay, so next we're going to attach our zipper. So we are going to take our seam that we just pressed open here, and we are going to place our zipper right side down facing the press down seam. And what we're going to do is we're going to pin down our zipper. So we can start at the top here and we're going to pin it down, work our way down. Okay, so now that that's pinned down, we can go ahead and get out our zipper foot for our regular sewing machine, and we are going to sew down the zipper tape. I'm gonna go down, across, and then back up again. So I'm gonna go do that now, and I'll show you the process as we go. So I'm just going to put on my zipper foot now. And make sure to pull back your fabric in the back so you don't sew on top of that. And we're just going to start on one side, and we can remove our pins as we go. Okay, so now what we're going to do is actually take our seam ripper and we're going to open up this seam to expose our zipper. Okay, so now we have our functioning zipper, which is great. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this raw edge that is at the top of my dress and I'm going to run it through the serger. Okay, looks pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take that edge that we just put through the serger and I'm going to fold about 3/8 of an inch, and we're going to iron this down. Okay, so while I'm waiting for my iron to heat up, I'm actually gonna take my top and I'm going to serge the bottom of this raw edge here. Okay, looks like that. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're going to take the top of our skirt, lay it against the top or the bottom of our top, and we're going to find that center point. Good way to tell is by the middle of this. You can line that up. And then we can clip in place. Okay, now that this is all clipped down, I'm going to sew along this edge 3/8 of an inch on my regular sewing machine with a straight stitch. So now what we're gonna do is we're just going to fold this in about 1/8 of an inch, and we're going to sew it down. So we're gonna fold it down. So it should be folded down just on the back, and we're just gonna take our straight stitch and sew that down. Okay, so what I've just done is I got my mom to hold the dress at the bottom of my feet wearing heels, and I basically, we clipped where we wanted the dress to end. So basically measure from your clip to the bottom of the dress, and mine is gonna be about 6 inches. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to remove 6 inches off the bottom of the dress, and then we can hem it to our ideal length. Okay, so now I'm going to serge the bottom. Okay guys, this is how the dress turned out. I'm super pleased with it. It fits like an absolute glove. We can see we did our zipper on the side right here, but you can always do your zipper on the back if you prefer, or on the other side. And there are many ways to customize this dress, such as shortening it, so however you like. And again, I did a size small, so for reference, you can always do one of the other sizes that I offer in the pattern, which is size extra small all the way to double XL. So be sure to choose the correct size that fits you best. Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure to guide you in this tutorial. I hope you thoroughly enjoyed it. I know I did. And if you got something out of this video, be sure to subscribe and comment below. I'm happy to respond to any comments or questions that you have. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me, and I guess I'll see you in the next one. Bye.